Hi, Mr. Hayes.
Okay. Hi.
You have the 3 questions that we asked you to speak on?
Yes.
Well, as soon as it gets to 6:30, it'll be your show, and you can speak on those any way that you want. You will have 10 minutes. At the end of if you finish before the end of 10 minutes, then we may have some questions for you.
Okay. Am I
So
permitted
right
to
now-
just have a brief introduction?
You are. It will be part of your 10 minutes, though.
Yes, that's
so,
fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You've got about a minute because we start everybody at that time, and then how you want to spend it, it's up to you.
All right. Thanks. All right.
Madam Chair, I have 6:30.
And mine just changed as well. It's your show, sir.
Okay. I'd just like to say good evening, and again, my name is Arnold Hayes, and I'm pleased to be nominated by the Nashville NAACP and also by private petition. I've been in Nashville for lived in Nashville for 35 years. I did supply a brief biography, resume, and also 6 recommendation letters to the Metro Clerk. I do have copies of the hard copies of the bio and recommendations letters if needed. The recommendation letters were from Ms. Gloria Sweetlove, the president of Tennessee State NAACP, Dr. Norman Reed, Senator-elect and now Senator Brenda Gilmore, Dr. Robert Quinn, the Reverend Perry Wiggins III, and Dr. Sekou Franklin. And I look forward to answering your questions and conveying to you why I should be confirmed for the Community Oversight Board.
Okay, and you can go ahead and speak to your questions
Okay.
first.
So the first question, and I know you have the question, so I don't have to repeat the question. I would like to contribute to making Nashville a safer city for all, both for the public and also for law enforcement. As a survivor of police misconduct, I hope to bring my social justice activist involvement, business experience, church leadership to the board. We have to get this right. Lives depend on it. This is probably the most important, high-profile, and challenging board ever in Nashville. Based on the facts, this board will often have to make decisions that will be unpopular with both the public and law enforcement. So besides the standard requirements, board members need to be able to handle pressure. I have experience handling pressure. The pressure of getting a production robot back up and running to avoid my employer losing millions of dollars. The pressure of managing people in a strong union environment. The pressure of trying to remain alive after an illegal traffic stop. The pressure of continuing to push for a COB when so many were telling us that it couldn't be done. The board will also need to be forward-thinking. The COB is not a new subject to me. Back in August of 2016, I planned an event that ultimately recommended a COB as an idea for Nashville. Long before the killing of Jacquees Clemens or Daniel Hamrick, recommendations from this event, again, was for oversight. My determination, knowledge, experience, research, and lessons learned will allow me to bring a unique and much-needed perspective to the board. So that's the first question. Any questions from you on the first question?
Did you have a question?
No, just let it.
Okay, yeah. So
Okay.
go ahead and do the whole thing.
Next question. As a child, I attended mass meetings during the 1960s civil rights movement. I witnessed people putting their lives on the line just to run for office. That definitely had an effect on me as far as social justice. I'm a core member of Community Oversight now, and I asked the group, where would the possibility of oversight be in Nashville without this coalition? I'm active in the Tennessee NAACP. I'm on the executive committee, and I'm also actively involved in the Nashville branch, including serving on the Criminal Justice Committee. I'm a former subcommittee chair of NOAA. I'm a church leader for over 30 years, where I've mostly focused on service and outreach and justice issues. I've had 80 hours of anti-racism training. My experience in civil rights and equity will again allow me to bring a unique and much-needed perspective to the board. Third question. I have had mostly neutral to positive experiences with the police. Again, I was a survivor about 40 years ago of a perceived police misconduct out of state. I have respect and empathy for the challenging job of law enforcement. I have served as a juror, visited inmates in local and state prisons, quite a bit familiarity with the criminal justice system in Nashville. Being a survivor of police misconduct and concerning individuals, and my concern for individuals that are affected by it, but still having respect and empathy for the job of law enforcement. In addition to my long-standing church leadership, that will allow me to be fair if I am chosen to be on the board. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Are there questions?
Yes, I do. I've got a couple. Can you explain the police misconduct to which you're referring?
I was an engineering intern, and it was in the state of Missouri. I was working during the summer. My roommate that I was living with when I was in St. Louis, he was also an engineering intern. We were driving, he was driving a South Carolina car with a South Carolina plate on it. We were stopped, and my roommate should not have moved, but he went to the glove compartment to get the registration out. And when that happened, I remember the gun being pulled. It was either pulled or he was ready to pull it. And I remember that. And so we were still. And then later on, when things calmed down, the officer said that actually they were looking for a plate from North Carolina. But it was two black men that were in a car, and we were stopped on the interstate, and I could have lost my life. But I'm here to talk about it. I'm still here. I've had a good life.
So to sum this up, the police misconduct to which you're referring is you were stopped and you or the passenger reached in the glove box and the officer drew a gun on you.
Yes, but I was saying he should not have moved, but we should not have been stopped.
You know, why do you think you were stopped?
Because we were two black men in a car that had North Carolina, even though his plate was South Carolina. But it was North Carolina they were looking for, but we were stopped.
Were they looking for two black men in a car with a North Carolina plate?
I'm not completely sure of that. I have to admit that.
You think it was racial why they stopped you?
Pardon?
You think it was racial why they stopped you?
I think we were profiled. I can't say whether it was race. You got to realize this was years ago.
Okay.
But when this happens to you, you don't forget.
I understand and I respect the fact that you have had an issue to deal with. I do want to refer to a couple of things on your Twitter feed. I've looked at your social media and it's quite clear that you, and good to see you again, Mr. Hayes. We've seen each other before.
We have.
But it's quite clear you're active in the movement for the COP, and what I want to do is respond to some of your Twitter statements, like I'm sick of those unaffected by officer misconduct saying there's no problem, and I'm sick of people either saying or thinking that all officers are good and all people of color are bad. Do you believe that there's racism in the criminal justice system?
I believe there's racism in America.
Do you believe there's specifically racism in our criminal justice system?
If there's racism in America, there's racism in the criminal justice system.
Do you believe that you can be non-biased when if there was a black victim and a white police officer with an incident that comes before you?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
All right.
And I'm going to be rude 1 second because we have about 2 more minutes. So
Go ahead.
I'm going
You
to
can
see if
stop me.
somebody else
That's fine.
has a question or wants to say something.
That's not rude.
And I will, if I can at least say though,
Yes.
concerning that incident was out of state, I think in my application I said it was perceived, that I perceived it was misconduct. It wasn't necessarily misconduct because I wasn't sure. So I wanted to set that record straight.
Anyone who wants, there is 1 minute left if anyone else has a question. Yes, sir.
Real quickly. How old were you at that time?
I was 22, I believe.
Okay. And you said you had received about 80 hours of anti-racism training. What was that about?
That was through my church. That was back in 2000, and yeah, we actually decided we were going to be an anti-racist denomination, and so I was one of the earlier ones that went through that training, and yeah, that's been something that's had a very good effect on my life.
Madam Chair, if I may.
You got less than a minute.
I would just like to confirm your statement that I do see that you do include the word perceived. Just want to validate your statement.
Yes.
On question 29.
Thank you. Thank you.
30 seconds or less, anything that you'd like to leave with us before you exit?
I know you can find a lot of people in Nashville that are qualified for this board, but I don't think you can find many that have the qualifications, the education, the experience.
And we want to thank you
that
so
I have.
much. I'm sorry for being rude.
Thank
We're
you.
the angels saying it's time to go. So thank you. Have
Thank
a
you for your
wonderful
time.
evening. Thank you so very much for
Thank you
coming
for
in.
coming. Appreciate it, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thanks.
Hayes.